We are now live in the meeting. The board had been in executive session. There was no action taken in executive session, so I will call for a motion to reconvene to the public meeting. Is there a second to that motion? So moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Okay. The first item of business then is to ratify approval of the board of directors minutes from September 17th. Harry, you want to make the motion to that?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hands. And I'm going through it quickly because you've all looked at it and you all made whatever comments that you have. I am going to make a few remarks before we go in, and then I'll save some for later. First, to our property owners and those viewing, good morning. This may be a bit early, but since this is the last scheduled meeting of the board for this year, I want to wish you a happy holidays and hope this is a very, very enjoyable and good time for you. Let me give you a few status reports. As you're probably aware, the tax referendum, which we hope would provide a source of funds for our traffic issues, did not pass. However, and I've been asked the question, we have been working on alternative sources at the same time, and we'll continue to press on in the direction of those alternative sources. We know more, we're going to tell you more. There has been some delay though on the alternative sources because the damage caused by Hurricane Helene has taken priority with the state, and the state is one of the places we're looking for manpower and financial resources. For your information, another matter on the referendum appeal case, we're still waiting a decision from the Federal Appeals Court. I don't know how long that's going to take. Nobody has any idea. There's no limit on how long they can take, but that's where we are. Now, there are a number of important issues on the menu or agenda. I guess I'm used to eating at restaurants. And these include one that we have the budget for this year, very important. You're going to get a lengthy report on our critical infrastructure, on the work and the use of the assessment funds arising from the referendum, which over 87% of the property owners approved. This will take some time, but it'll give you probably the most complete understanding of where we are, where the dollars are, where the work is, what's being spent. In addition, we've been making a review of many of the CSA processes that came into being over the past many years to make sure they're adjusted to meet the present needs of CPIs. It's not the fun part of the job, but it's necessary for CSA to be able to provide better service to our community. CSA was created to take over the community services as assigned to CSA by the bankruptcy court. Now, for those who want exactness, I'm only trying to give you an overview. I'm not trying to quote verbatim all facts that are involved. In the past CSA boards took on several community-related operations, if that's correct terminology. In the coming months, we will create a communication piece to inform you of those operations and to give you more information. Let me mention some of them. One is 6 Oak Cemetery. Many years ago, the CSA board made a decision to become involved with the cemetery. I'm not discussing why, but it's just stating a fact. A new corporation was formed, and the executive committee of CSA was designated as the board of that corporation. Another corporation came along, created by a board many years ago, was the Forest Preserve Foundation. And the executive committee of CSA was designated as the board of that corporation. Also, following the bankruptcy of the company, CSA was given 2 positions on the board of the Sea Pines Architectural Review Corporation. That's SPARC. And SPARC, as we refer to it, that is not the ARB. The ARB is a standing committee of SPARC. In addition to all of that, the original developer, Charles Frazier, owned substantial land outside of Sea Pines and exercised commercial architectural view over that property. When that property was sold, he placed restrictions on that property, commercial architectural view restrictions, and retained those. And in the bankruptcies, that was, those duties were assigned to CSA. It's fairly extensive property outside. If you kind of look, it can go all the way over from a few places on North Beach, across Hope Avenue, down Palmetto Road, all the way to Hague Point, relating to the properties he owns. Not every one of the properties, but the properties that he owned and placed restrictions on. So again, a new corporation was formed called CARB, and Commercial Architectural Review Board. And CARB, the offices of CARB are the offices of CSA. I think if I'd have known all of this, I'd have probably refused to be chairman of CSA because I didn't know what all I was getting involved in. But there are a lot of organizations out there. Yet we're not just CSA. And these boards, because they're the officers and directors of CSA, and because these are activities related and have a relationship to Sea Pines, our community, they all turn to CSA to provide services and administration. And CSA staff has unrelentingly and unselfishly provided those services to these organizations. And they're not insignificant operations, and they do require attention. But to me, as a former city attorney, the lines are a bit more blurred than I would like. And the organizational relationship needs some codification and realignment. We need to know that each corporation stands on its own, that CSA can provide assistance and staff, but it has to be in a way that CSA is not directly involved in anything those corporations do or don't do as far as liability purposes. So it's incumbent on us to address the relationship of these businesses and how CSA interacts with them. Next year, we're going to spend time on these processes. But in the meantime, we're going to prepare communications to the community to inform you of these related entities and their functions. You need to be aware of them and what they mean and how they affect your life in our community. So, and there are other things we're doing to try to update our processes. One is today, you're going to hear us consider amendments to our bylaws. I'll run through a list of things that are going to be included in the amendment. It is things like anytime you have to sign something, you can sign it electronically without specifying what it is. And a number of other things like that. We have to have, and I'll say it now, we have no position for a COO. And with the level of the work we have, we believe we need positions for people like that to help handle all of these other things we're talking about. And so the bylaws will create that. The bylaws take my position as chair, which was chair and CEO, and takes CEO from me. I'm just the chair of the board, and CEO will go to the president. So Sam's new position after these are adopted will be president and CEO. CEO is the operating executive to make sure things go right. The executive director over everything. And that does not need to be a volunteer person who's on the board. That needs to be a full-time employee. So I'm not going to talk anymore. I just want to lay groundwork for a few things so that you'll know what we're going through. It's going to be a long meeting because there's going to be some long financial information given to you. One final comment, if you have not already voted for the residential directors, please do so. And stay tuned to this. Remember that if you have to leave or if you're not present at the beginning, it will be time-stamped so you can go to various sections to be able to pick up the information you want. We have had extremely high viewership, and because of this, And that, so we're very proud of the fact that we're reaching a large number of our community by having our meetings this way. I know we constantly get questions of open meetings, but these are open meetings. It's just doesn't allow people to come in to physically be present, to look you in the eye while you're talking and voting. But otherwise, you can ask questions, and if you have questions as we go along, you can submit those questions. So with that, I am going to turn the meeting over to Sam Bennett as president for his remarks.
Thank you, Chairman. I will save most of my remarks as we work through the agenda with the director and with the treasurer.
Okay. And we'll go to management reports. The first one is communication. Stephanie, you want to start us off?
Great. Good morning, everyone. I do have just a few slides to share with you all. Let me get this going. All right. First is our board of directors election that began on November 1st. We have 3 seats available on January 1st, 2025. We have 4 candidates running. Those are Jennifer Erickson, Bill Johnson, Dave Schottmer, and Tom Sharp. So sorry. So ballots went out on November 1st from Vote Now. We have the ability to vote online there. So please be sure to submit that ballot back to us by 11:59 p.m. on December 1st. More information about our candidates as well as our election process can be found on our website at cpinesliving.com/elections. We have our Deep Well Community Donation event coming up on Friday, December 13th. This is the last one of the year. You can find more information about their pantry needs as well as the Santa Shop wish list on our website at cpinesliving.com/events. That'll take place at the Sea Pines Community Center parking lot from 9 to 11 a.m. on Friday, December 13th. And just as a reminder about what materials are posted about our board meetings. So if you go to cpinesliving.com/board meetings, you'll find the agenda and the meeting resolutions. Those are posted just before the meeting date. We also will post the video as soon as it ends, so that way you can watch the full video at your earliest convenience. We will also post a meeting recap. So this meeting recap will have the timestamp video links, and that way you can just go to any reports that maybe you're most interested in. We'll also post the documents that were discussed during meeting resolutions. For example, our financial statements, those are posted to our website and can be found in the meeting recap. The other thing we'll do is post a link directly to the financial report, as well as the meeting minutes as soon as they're approved. Those will also be posted to this page. So just a quick reminder about what information you can find on our website about our board meetings. And then just to discuss some year-to-date engagement, we have had 16,500 visits to our property owners landing page. That's the cpinesliving.com/owner. That's where you can find our community updates, board information, department information, and events. Those are all posted to that landing page. We have about 6,800 contacts open our weekly emails every week. So that puts us at about a 73% open rate. And then year-to-date YouTube views, we've had 6,590 views on our videos posted there. And our Facebook page has seen 10,700 visitors this year. So just some fun stats for you all to share. And last but not least, we do have our Thanksgiving holiday office hours posted. So Wednesday will be closing at noon next week. Thursday and Friday will be closed for the Thanksgiving holiday. And as a quick reminder, vehicles with commercial decals or commercial passes are not permitted in Sea Pines on Thanksgiving or the day after Thanksgiving. If you do have an emergency and need a service provider to gain access, be sure to call Sea Pines Security ahead of time at 843-671-7170. So I hope you all have a happy Thanksgiving from all of us here. And that concludes my update, but happy to take any questions you all may have.
Jim?
Yeah, thank you, David. Stephanie, excellent work. And I just want to emphasize that your redo of the weekly email, the stories that are starting to come out. The first one was the renter registration. We have one coming out on infrastructure. We've been working in this communications task force, so we can skip that part of the agenda, David. But I just want to applaud Stephanie's work. But I think this open rate I think the readership and the viewing of the different components that Stephanie just shared with us exceeds most industry standards when you look at a 73+% open rate. And I really think the goal we set, that CSA communications would be the source of truth, not social media, and that the kind of links and the directions that we're giving to people to find out what the true information is working, and I think it's gaining confidence of the community. So well done, and I think we should celebrate the progress that you're making. So kudos.
Thanks so
Thank you.
much, Jim. I appreciate that.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll go, thank you, and we'll go to community infrastructure. Russell?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sure can.
All right, I have a brief presentation this morning, just want to run through. So let me go ahead and share the screen. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And again, good morning and thank you. Appreciate everyone's time, and just want to share some insights and what we have been working on the last few months. It's been an incredibly busy fall with our infrastructure work, both in South Sea Pines Drive and on Lighthouse Lane. And just starting out here with some progress pictures and photos of the work. As you can see here in the opening slide, just some of the failed drainage that dates back to the 1950s, early 1950s, both in South Sea Pines Drive and Harbortown, long past its useful life. So we've been able to replace all this drainage down there in these areas and kind of work through this along Lighthouse Lane and South Sea Pines to make sure this infrastructure is operating properly. Again, just to highlight some of the aspects of the projects, the stormwater upgrades, which I mentioned, roadway resurfacing, realignment, leisure trail work, and the crosswalk stamping and line striping are key aspects of these projects and just about every infrastructure project that we do. Here are some progress photos from South Sea Pines Drive. You can see here in the center photo, the deteriorated pipe, a stormwater pipe. This pipe had no bottom to it. So we just, again, pulling this out of this from underneath the roadway. All this pipe is in a much deteriorated state. Again, sharing these stormwater pictures this morning. And again, we've made excellent progress. We are on schedule with both the stormwater and other aspects of construction, both on South Sea Pines and on Harbortown. Sharing a couple slides this morning, just the overall of the South Sea Pines Drive area, where some of this work is taking place. Many of you have been down there and seen this area of the roadway. Again, just sharing some insights in what we're working on. Construction along South Sea Pines Drive, of the South Sea Pines Drive roadway and the islands that are in the center of the road to improve both pedestrian and vehicular safety in the area and functionality of the roadway as traffic enters and exits the South Beach area. So again, just sharing some photos again of the milling and paving operation, as well as the new curbing that's been set in the center of the roadway. Here's some stormwater pictures of Lighthouse Lane, what we're referring to as phase 1, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Here's some, again, this failed drainage pipe here in these center photos, and the pipe in many areas actually had none of the top of the pipe was left underneath the roadway. So just timing is everything to get into some of these areas and replace this infrastructure. And we're continuing to work through this. And again, we're on schedule. The stormwater in Lighthouse Lane is largely completed at this time. Touching on the phases of work, you just heard me mention phase 1, which consists of the area from Lighthouse Road to Mizzenmast Lane. Phase 1, which we're in right now, and completion is slated for later here in December for the completion of major construction. Phase 2 of the Lighthouse Lane Harbortown project includes a new drainage outfall that will go across the 18th fairway of the Harbortown Links course out to Calabogie Sound. This phase 2 work is scheduled for this coming May. So again, will be a large presence of construction equipment in the area. Phase 3, which is this area from Mizumas Lane all the way down Lighthouse Lane to the marina, is what we're referring to as phase 3. That will be this coming fall of 2025. Then finally, phase 4, which is Windjammer Court. Windjammer comes off of Mizumas Lane back in this area, and then we'll be milling and paving the other roadways, Genoa Court here, and Mizumas Court as part of the project. There is a lot of new stormwater drainage that we have to reroute on Windjammer Lane, Windjammer Court, back over here to Mizumas. Again, this will be slated for the fall of 2026 at this point in time. Highlighting a few other projects, Plantation Drive Leisure Trail, which we were just recently working on. We're finalizing and finishing the crosswalk stamping and all those other aspects of the project. Just sharing a couple of photos of the project, and we're able to realign the leisure trail and widen the leisure trail in many areas along Plantation Drive, and then the new stamped crosswalks or a new safety component of the project that was recently installed. Otter Road, we announced this previously, but this construction has started or slated to begin the fall of 2025. Again, this is a stormwater and both roadway work. It's an intensive project. There's a lot of drainage in the Otter Road area, so this is going to take a good deal of time to work through this. But again, this is slated for the fall of 2025. And then the planned construction of the new leisure trail near Ivy Road and Club Course Drive is still planned. We are currently working through permitting on this project, but again, this is planned. So that concludes the slides I have this morning, and glad to take any questions. And certainly want to wish everyone a happy and healthy and safe holiday season ahead as we are closing in quickly here on Thanksgiving. So glad to take any questions.
Russell, what do you call the paving bricks across the roadway when the leisure trail intersects them?
That's referred to as stamped asphalt.
Okay.
Asphalt is heated up and then stamped with a thermoplastic adhesive. Compromises those crosswalks, which have the red center and then the white banding. Now there are some crosswalks that we are going to install in Lighthouse Lane that will be a true concrete brick for enhanced details down there, but traditionally it's the stamped asphalt in all locations.
Well, I just want to let you know, my wife highly approves those. So, Jim?
Yeah, Dave, thank you. Great report. It just amazes me that when we did the Greenwood Drive and we learned that we certainly didn't encounter the level of drainage problems and issues that we continue to uncover under the roads. And thank goodness 88% of us said we absolutely have to make these investments and are able to do that. But how would you, as you take these pictures and you pull these pipes, would you ever have imagined it to be in this bad a shape?
Jim,
I know we knew it was in this bad a shape because it flooded everywhere, but I mean, literally to find what we're finding under these roads.
Jim, thank you very much for the question. And to answer your question, we had a very good idea of how bad it was in certain areas like Harbortown through previous failures that we encountered, both in the roadway and elsewhere of the drainage system. So through those investigations did lead us to those conclusions that the pipes were failed. And we know the history of most of the drainage dates back to the early or mid 1950s, which clearly, any of that pipe that's still in the ground, most of it outdates outdates itself. Now there is some stormwater pipe that we've come across that is concrete in certain places, but the majority of it, unfortunately, is very old and very outdated and past its lifespan.
Yeah, I just think when we think about when we did the original referendum and we were estimating, I think the scope of the deterioration and the level of repair that is required sure exceeded anything I would have understood. So it's great that you're digging it out.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I would also add to that, Jim, the other thing that we're discovering is the fact that we're not able to put the pipe back in its original location certain times, and having to build brand new systems because of when the pipe was put in the ground 50 years ago, before there were homes and utilities, there was not a concern about building on top of it. And so we found in a lot of areas, and particularly we're going to find in the Harbortown area, that there's going to be significant abandonment of the existing system in place while we build a brand new system. So you don't get to pull the pipe out of its current location. You have to go back somewhere else and fill that pipe that's failed with some type of material and find a new location. So that may be a challenge that's going to be ongoing for us for a while, to work through neighborhoods, so to speak. Working down Sea Pines Drive, it was a little easier. You were working down a roadway, but when we start working through the neighborhoods in the Lighthouse Lane and Mizzenmast area, we've got to be exceedingly careful as we're dealing with pipe that potentially is a foot away from somebody's not their property line, but the wall of their home. So Russell has his challenges moving ahead, but I will tell you, Russell, I'm very proud of how you've managed to bring Sea Pines to a close. Hopefully, we're anticipating end of March close date on that project still.
Yes, sir. By March for South Sea Pines Drive, and we're projecting a Christmas finish for Lighthouse Lane.
Very good. So that's and then we'll take a break in Lighthouse Lane, and as soon as the Heritage Golf Tournament is over, we will start back working in conjunction with the resort to do those improvements across the golf course. I do know that we are going to add, when we change the routing of the drainage across 18, we're going to add a control flap gate so that we've got better control of the tide pushing in. Right now, we don't have the ability to control those tides, and we had really some of the highest tides of the year just a few days ago, and you saw the water pushing back in through the system. Well, right now we don't have a way to stop that. After we're done with this work, we'll have the ability to do that. So appreciate Russell and the engineers thinking that through. So hopefully this time next year, when we have those king tides roll in, we'll have less of that salt water intruding back into the system.
Anyone else? All right, we'll go to maintenance. Jared?
Good morning. How are y'all doing?
Good.
Good. I have a quick presentation. I know it's going to be a busy meeting for y'all, so I just want to go through something quickly here. And can everyone see my screen okay?
See it?
So on our last meeting in September, I spoke heavily on Debbie, which was setting record rainfalls for us. But just want to give you a quick update on what that meant for us after. So the excessive rainfall was identified deficiencies that are not visible with a typical rainfall event. I mean, majority of our system, when we're getting 1 or 2 inch rain, it's traversing through the system, and we don't have a whole lot of deficiencies. Obviously, looking at almost 10 inches of rain was a different story for us. During the storm, it identified approximately 30 deficiencies, and majority of those we were able to fix on site. As you can see here, we had a head pump a catch basin. Sometimes it was just more capacity than our system could handle in certain areas. However, there were some that were larger repairs that we had to do in the next few weeks. One of which I wanted to kind of show an example of is some pipe repair. And it's deterioration of a metal pipe most of the time. Sometimes there's breaks in the pipes or separation. That can occur due to the age. As Russell mentioned, a lot of the systems were definitely past their life expectancy. Saltwater intrusion in some areas, shifting soil or external damage. It can lead to water leakage, soil erosion, and reduced drainage efficiency. A solution we have for this is deteriorated or broken pipes. Usually we can do a point repair, which is by patching the affected areas. Once we open it up, if we deem it to be a severe repair, then we'll actually have to replace some sections of the pipe. Unfortunately, we have to excavate to see how much damage there is. But then we'll make the determination how we're going to repair. And this is an example of a spot on the corner of Lighthouse Road and Stony Creek where we had to excavate and look at a pipe. And this is a view from another angle. You see our gentlemen are down there doing an inspection of the pipe. Another issue we kind of look at after these storms is the ditch repair and resloping, which thankfully there hasn't been as much of this. We've been on a proactive schedule with it. But again, with almost 10 inches of rain, there are certain areas where we can see water isn't moving as effectively as we would like. Some of the things we do look for is overgrown vegetation, and a lot of times those will obstruct the way the water is going. Or if there's bare dirt in certain areas, that could indicate that the soil is kind of caved in, and that may cause an obstruction as well. Water flowing out of a drainage ditch into the surrounding land could typically be, there's not, like the ditch may not be deep enough or it's filled in too much to traverse to the pipe. A culvert could be blocked with sticks or tree roots or roots from trees that are above the surface of the dirt, which you can see in this photo here on the right-hand side, all the trees that were in this ditch. So steps to maintaining and repairing a drainage ditch. First step we take is to clear the ditch of excessive growth. Once we have that out of there, then we can see what we're working with, what we have to do to repitch the ditch and make sure the water is going the right direction. Then we'll repair any washouts and then reshape the ditch to direct the water in the right direction. And then the culvert or discharge pipe may need to be constructed or cleaned out to ensure that the ditch can properly discharge the water. We don't want to push the water to the pipe and then it can't get through the pipe. So every single time we're doing this, we're definitely checking the pipes out too. Once the ditch is cleared and properly sloped, the next step is we want to prevent future erosion. And most effective method that we use is plant with grass seed. Once the grass germinates and starts to grow, it helps stabilize the bank by creating a root system that'll hold the dirt together. As you can see this photo on the right, our gentleman Jesse that works for us is raking out, doing fine raking so we can prepare it for seed. So once we thought we were done with Hurricane Debbie and the repairs that needed, here came Helene knocking on our door, which was a whole different storm. There wasn't a whole lot of rain, but this was a lot more tree and vegetation obstruction and impacts. As you can see here, some of our crew members picking up a tree that fell across the road over by Magnolia Crescent. Again, this is a pine tree that twisted and fell across the road. And this was near Fraser Circle. This was an oak tree that was leaning over into another tree. This was on Beach Lagoon. If you could see, there's a top of a pine tree that snapped out here, and also a good demonstration of vegetation that was on the road as well. We did have to make an emergency removal on Greenwood Drive. I'm sure some of y'all saw the emails. The photo on the left is an oak tree that was heaving due to wind damage, and we didn't want to fall across Greenwood Drive because we all know the traffic impacts that would have. So we had to make the determination to close the lane down and get this tree removed. Thankfully, we had our contractor on site assisting with cleanup, so we were able to get to this quickly. And I really want to highlight our CSA maintenance staff. As you see in these photos, they're actually picking debris up by hand. Honestly, there's not really an easy way to pick it up on grass or these roadside areas. Some of the smaller stuff we can grind up with a mower, but these guys really got to go through and pick everything up by hand and get it removed before we can come in with the mower to do a final cleaning. But again, I just want to highlight how hard these guys work. And, you know, it's not fun being here in a storm, especially when they have their families and their houses at home, but it just shows their dedication to the community. And again, I just want to highlight how much we appreciate them and their willingness to take care of these things for us. Here's an example of some of the beach erosion we had. And as Sam mentioned, this was from the storm, but as Sam mentioned, we've just been having such high tides and we're seeing beach erosion like I've never seen since I've been here, but we're getting contractors and they've been here helping fix the boardwalks as well. But I just figured this was a good demonstration of some of the erosion we've been seeing. One thing I did want to highlight that we did last month, we actually had our maintenance staff attend an intensive chainsaw safety training class. This is designed to equip our team with essential knowledge and skills necessary for the safe operation of maintenance of chainsaws. One of the highlights that I liked the most was the practical hands-on experience. As you see from the photo here on the left, our staff working with certified arborists who we had come in and take time and show these guys proper cuts and situational awareness and just how to be safe while operating chainsaws. It was great timing because the things that they learned in the controlled environment are things that they can use when we're doing storm response or attending to trees that are falling across the roads or anything like that. I did want to highlight that by investing in our team's education and development, we are striving to create a culture of continuous improvement that benefits our employees and the community together. Just a quick kind of year-to-date where we're at with our CSA maintenance work orders. We've had approximately 2,200 work orders sent and put in our system this year. About 47% are sign shop, which is comprised of roadway signage, mailboxes, house numbers, things like that. Around 31% are grounds related, which is mulch delivery, mulch installation, landscaping, and debris pickup. Approximately 11% are facilities, around 8% are drainage related, and around 3% are asphalt repairs. Quick highlight on the community standards. We've done around 2,600 violations thus far. Around 30% are landscaping related, around 14% are maintenance related, around 18% are unsightly items in view, and around 9% are rubbish and debris. I did want to mention quickly some of the upcoming work to be expected throughout the rest of this year. If you had a chance to go down Lighthouse Road, you've seen our staff doing roadside mulching out there. It's something we usually do this time of year. Really helps with the way the live oaks look over the tree and helps the aesthetics down the road. We're still working on some road and leisure trail tree trimming. You'll see that throughout the rest of this year. The holiday lights we're going to be putting on the weekend after Thanksgiving, so keep an eye out for those. And we're going to continue working on roadside ditch maintenance. Just keep an eye out for Stephanie's email to see where that or her communications email to see what areas we'll be working in. That is all I have, and I am happy to answer any questions y'all may have.
Jared, good morning. Thank you for the update regarding the beach erosion areas. As you know, the town is planning and preparing for another beach renourishment project. Hopefully, they have seen the erosion that we have and can include those areas in their project coming up.
Steve, go ahead, Jared. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say the town is aware, and I mean they do actively monitor the beach as well, so I know they're aware of the erosion that's taking place.
Yeah,
and we're in direct communication with the town, and look forward to working with them on that project to try and recover some of those dunes and some of the beach. If you go to the beach during high tide or the 2 hours before, 2 hours after, there's not much beach there in certain areas now, so it's very disappointing.
Yeah, well, hopefully the town's project can repair some of that.
Another question with Jim over there?
Just a quick question as I'm out walking our dog and I go up and down some of the beach paths, a number of them have boardwalks that are under sand now. Is that okay, or is that something that's on your list?
So that's actually something we do on a periodic basis. It's kind of, with the tides, the way they're going, the winds, the way they've been, sometimes we can go out and clean them off and the next day they're covered up again. But we do have staff members that go out weekly and clean them off. Sometimes it's a simple taking a blower and blowing them off, but there's times we have to take equipment out there and actually take the sand off with a small excavator type.
So the
but
goal
it
is to have it all, but you understand
Yes.
it's always changing. Yeah. all
Yeah,
right.
it's, Mother Nature's.
The things we're doing and then the aesthetics. And Jared and Russell, whether it's one of our capital projects or whether it's the day-to-day operations, those guys take those three things and they think about those, again, with safety being at the top, functionality of what we're doing, making sure it's done appropriately and a best practice makes the most sense. And then at the end of the day, what's it look like? 85% of what we do, particularly what Russell does, you don't see it. But that other 15% is what the community does see. And so that's very important. And I think the community's gonna appreciate what they see in South Sea Pines Drive, as well as what's happening down in the Harbortown area. I'm doing, and we'll see this in the 2025 budget when we talk about it, but we're doing a little bit of swapping for responsibilities because we're trying to better align who does what in the organization, so make sure we've got the right efficiencies. Russell has got everything he can do plus more right now. And so previously, Russell has been managing our Brightview contracts. We use an outside landscaper to help manage the aesthetic function of the community, in addition to what Jared's crews do on a regular basis. So that contract management is going to roll over to Jared in the 2025 budget, so that Jared is over the aesthetics piece and is aligned with his crews, and the contractor are aligned. So we've got the right folks working together and have a better efficiency as we're planning the aesthetics piece of it. And then, but you guys just saw all the work that Russell's got scheduled for 2025. So I don't know that Russell's going to get much sleep in 2025. So he really didn't need to be handling the aesthetics piece anymore. It's not a reflection on how Russell did it. He did a great job with that. It's just the fact that Russell's got more than he can shake a stick at now. So moving ahead, Russell's sole focus will be on managing contracts for these large capital projects moving ahead. And I just want to thank both of them for what they do. And the results speak for themselves, whether it's not flooding not happening or whether it's how great things look. And I appreciate both of you guys.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thank
Sam,
you.
very much.
All right, then we'll go to the next item, which is finance and administration. Victoria.
And I'll just stand up since I was in witness protection up at the head of the table. So I just wanted to share with you today, the folks up front, I don't know, when you come into the building, there are 3 employees that work in that front office, and they have really done a great job with customer service and knowledgeable and answering the phone and just been really great. And not only that, they've also just taken an initiative and said, just because we've done it this way for so long, let's change things up. So I wanted to share with you some things you're going to be seeing starting, in a couple of weeks with the new decal renewals. The first one is the property owner decals. One thing I want to say, this is not to scale. I made the new ones purposely bigger to show that, to highlight them. So as you can see, we took away the CSA logo and highlighted the fact the word Sea Pines property owner, put community services associate at the bottom. Just made it a little cleaner. Next one is our commercial hang tags. They were this year they're green, and so we really brightened up the color to see Sea Pines, the 25, the yellow color, and that's going to give the gate officers a little easier for them to see as these vehicles come through. The next one are the commercial decals. Again, it's not to scale. I did make them bigger so that it would be a little more highlighted. And again, the year 25 is highlighted, the number 2, which stands for 2 axles, as well as our new Sea Pines Community Services Associates logo. And the next is, you all are familiar with the relative decals. Again, we highlighted the 25, put in our logo, and made that R for relative very visible for the gate officers to see. And then everybody likes the Pelican Pass. The Pelican Pass now is, again, we changed the colors to green and yellow and highlighted the pelican and really highlighted that it is a preferred pass for island residents. And finally, the employee passes. Again, we changed the color scheme, put our logo on there, emphasized the E as well as the 25. So you're going to be seeing these new decals throughout the property as you're driving around. So I wanted to make you aware. And if you get a chance, come up here and say hi to these folks up front. They are really wonderful and they are just fun to be around. They're enthusiastic, they're happy. So we're really, really proud of them. So I wanted to say thank you to them.
Thanks. Any questions? Well,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Victoria.
Mhm.
Now we'll go to operations and special projects. David Henderson. There he is.
Hey, good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And hello, everyone. Just wanted to give you a few updates about the Forest Preserve and then a quick little update on Six Oak Cemetery. The Forest Preserve Foundation's annual fundraising drive is in progress. If you had made a contribution, thank you very much. And if you have not, hope that you do have an opportunity to do so. And please consider supporting our natural treasure. You should have received a letter in the mail, but if you had not, or if it just gotten kind of set to the side, you do have a couple other options should you choose to contribute to the Forest Preserve. You can simply stop by CSA. Alternatively, you can go to seapinesforestpreserve.org and look for the donate button at that page. On Friday, November 8th, we had our 13th annual bonfire. The event once again sold out. We just wanted to thank the attendees, the silent auction contributors, the Forest Preserve Committee for not only organizing the auction, but also providing decorations, CSA staff and volunteers. And we wanted to give a special thank you to the sponsors who make the event possible. We had the Salty Dog that once again contributed all of the excellent food and service to the event. It was better than normal, and normal is really good. Arbor Nature, Savage Sanitation, the Heritage Classic Foundation, Tree Wiseman, and last but not least, the Sea Pines Resort, who does continue to support the foundation in a meaningful way annually through their community fund. And we couldn't have put the event on without the sponsor support, and we just wanted to say thank you for that. Wanted to move on to our December bird walk. These are conducted during the spring, fall, and winter. They're very, very well received by the community. The next one will be coming up on Friday, December 20th. If you're interested, keep an eye out in the community email that will go out on Thursday, December 12th. That will be the invite and the opportunity for you to sign up to get tickets via Eventbrite. Just one word of caution, if you are interested, these do quickly sell out. So I would not hesitate if that's something that you or someone that you know is considering participating in. Just wanted to give a general notice that we're at the beginning or the early stages of the upcoming prescribed burning season. It's typically first quarter of the year. It's all based on weather, and just historically it's January, February, March, April, sometimes into a little bit of early summer when all those stars align. We will continue to communicate with the community as we've done previously on the prescribed burning program, but just wanted to let you all know that we are getting into the beginning of the prescribed fire season. Wanted to talk a little bit about Helene, the storm. I think we all got a little bit more than what we were expecting. I know the Forest Preserve certainly did. We had about 75 trees that came down in the Forest Preserve alone from Helene. Most of those were pine trees, not all, but most of them were pine trees. And the previous train saw training that Jared had mentioned earlier was conducted in the Forest Preserve, and they were able to help us during their training program with a few Helene trees. So we much appreciated the help. We are essentially complete with the storm cleanup from Helene. If you've been out in the forest preserve, you may have seen piles of cut logs that are waiting to be hauled off. That process has begun yesterday and will probably continue over the next few weeks. So we're hoping to put Helene in our rearview mirror. On the forest preserve, the last thing I wanted to mention was what we're referring to as our meadow project. If you have been in the preserve lately, on the back side of the wildflower field, there is an area that was recently opened up. And that area is an old soil storage area that has been in place for decades. It's mostly soil that was stored there temporarily, sometimes a little bit longer than temporarily. Also, there's a certain amount of asphalt and concrete debris that over time has gotten mixed in with that soil. We're looking at this as part of our overall land management program, in which the goal is to increase the ecological value of that property to the overall habitat in the forest preserve. And so we've recently completed phase 1 work there. It was completely choked out with vines. You couldn't see your feet if you were walking through there. And so phase 1 has been completed, in which all the vines were cleared out. That allows us to kind of see what we have to work with. It allows us to be able to see where the concrete debris is. That work has been completed. And then the final second phase work will be beginning soon, in which we will do some soil moving, some earth moving, vegetative monitoring over the next 3 growing seasons. So I'd like to emphasize that this is a process. But at the end of the day, the goal is to create an old field or a meadow habitat that is pretty limiting as a habitat type in the forest preserve, that we think everyone, from not only an aesthetic perspective, but from the wildlife perspective, will be a much needed improvement out there in the forest preserve. Last thing I'd like to mention is related to Six Oaks Cemetery. Every year, the cemetery honors our veterans that are interred in the cemetery by placing flags out several times during the year. Those flags are out now, you may have noticed, but we do have our upcoming Wreaths Across America ceremony. That will be held on Saturday, December 14th at noon. Community members are encouraged to come out to the cemetery and to participate in laying a wreath at the grave of every veteran that is interred in Six Oaks, which is approximately 1,000. So we'd love to see you all on Saturday, December 14th at noon at Six Oaks. That concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Comments?
I just want to add a couple of things to David's report, and thank David for all the work for the bonfire. It was a wonderful event. Nice to see a lot of folks out there that you don't normally get to see. And then I encourage you to go through the forest preserve and take a look at the work David has been doing on the Meadow project. In addition to that, we're also focused on doing I'll use the term daylighting, some clearing of the vistas of underbrush and growth along the lakes, so you've got a better view of the water. And that's something I've challenged my team with, Jared and Russell and David, as we're working through the community. If there are areas where you've got a water view that's in common space, let's open that back up. Those spaces were designed to be seen, great, not covered in low growth and vegetation. We don't want to take out significant trees, large trees, but we do want to take the underbrush out so that the community has the views of the water across the open space. So that's just again, another thing that we as a team have thought about and are working on. And it's very evident with the work Russell has done on Sea Pines Drive and what Jared's been doing in conjunction with his projects. It's also very, very evident in the forest preserve, and we'll continue to work through that so that the community and our visitors and guests can enjoy those vistas and those water views.
And this is throughout the community,
And whenever
not just through the forest preserve.
not just forest preserve, whenever we have an
Awesome.
opportunity. Yeah.
That's great to hear.
It also gives us more places to stand to fish.
Well, it helps with the breeze and just it's
Air movement, everything. It's just great.
for those of you that have been here as long as Kerry Corbett has, those views were there in the past, and they've grown up.
Load in.
We need to take them back thoughtfully and
That
appropriately.
is great.
So we're working on that.
But we didn't used to take that approach.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you, Dave. We'll go to safety, security, and transportation, Joe.
Good morning, everyone. Excuse my voice, I've got a little bit of a chest cold, so if it sounds a little froggy, it is. Can't believe the year is, we're already into Thanksgiving, Christmas time. It's really flown by this year. I want to go over just a few things. I'll go through some stats that I usually present, and then I'll mention a few things. And Stephanie's good enough to get my slides up for me. The first one I like to go over is the amount of vehicles that are entering Sea Pines. I'll give you a minute just to look at some of those numbers. The top one obviously is the total one, and the next three are breakdown of the Greenwood Gate, the Ocean Gate, the pay lanes, and then the final one's the Greenwood property owners or pass holders lane. I went ahead and totaled those up for you. That's a total of 3.2 million vehicles that have entered Sea Pines one way or another. I know as they go through and talk about traffic and other issues, these numbers are important to show the amount of vehicles that are actually enter our Sea Pines community, and that's every vehicle. The one thing I didn't break down, I broke them down on the I didn't break them down on the slides for you, but a full 60% of those 3.2 million vehicles come through the pass holders lane or the property owners lane, by far the majority. And you can look there on the slide and see that. So that's a lot of vehicles. That gives us an idea of really how busy we are from a traffic standpoint for those issues, but also when it comes to personnel, gate officers, because they're not one of those vehicles gets through without going by one of the CSA gate officers. So that's they're busy folks up there. I go up there. Some of you will see me up there from time to time. Try to get there to see what they're doing. I'll sit with them for a while, and it's really a daunting task. They do a terrific job up there. So I commend my gate officers for all the attentiveness. They catch a lot of things up there. They don't catch everything, but they catch quite a bit. And as we continue to maintain those personnel and don't have turnover, they get better and better at it every day. So we can move on to the next. This is just basically our calls for service or our reports. We've had 4,388 total calls for service year to date. And what I did was I broke down the top 6. And again, the top 6 cover about 50% of all those calls that you see. Property owners and guest relations, wildlife, activated alarms, improper parking, gate runners, and 911 hangups. Those comprise about 50% of our calls for service. And those remain, from what I've seen, pretty consistent from year to year. And we can move on to the next one. One of the big things that I told you I would do here because of the complaints that I received and continue to receive is traffic enforcement for speeding and other violations, whether they're through trucks, they're speeding, they're passing, or whatever. I think we needed to really beef that up. The numbers on the left show the number of tickets in 2023 on the far left, and then the increase in 2024. The blocks on the right are what we issue for warnings. We issue warnings for the same things we can issue citations for. It's at the discretion of the security officer is what they issue the citation or warning for. And you can tell both of those have increased about 50% citations and 35% for the warnings from 2023 to 2024. You can take the slides off now, Steph.
Hey, Joe, Jim here. Are those citations? What's the mix of who's guilty? Property owners?
Yeah.
I'm not, I know I'm not, right?
I know you're not. I know you're not, because you're one of my guys that really supports this. I know, Jim. We get a mix. We get a lot of contractors. A lot of contractors. We get a lot of contractor traffic. My security officers are pretty, depending on where they're set up at. They know who the property owners are. They see them pass by from time to time, and if they're guilty, they may get a warning, may get a citation, but really it's a lot of contractors, a lot of workers. I think that's the majority. I think everybody else behaves themselves pretty well. Property owners are really respectful of that. I think because they understand probably better than anyone else the safety issues, all the bicycles, all the pedestrian traffic that travel through, and the amount of vehicles, as I showed you earlier, that come through here. So that's why it's such a high priority. They do a terrific job of all the other, how do I say, where they check your properties and they do their proactives down in Harbor Town or over towards Salty Dog or in the neighborhoods and other areas. So they do a terrific job at that. But and I think we can continue to do a better job and even increase this a little bit more. The problems that we kind of ran, that I saw when I was looking at the increase in that, and continue, like I said, I think we can do even more, because I think it needs to be done, is that we just didn't have enough officers that were radar certified, quite frankly. We write state tickets, and it's important that our officers, it's mandatory that they're radar certified and they know what they're doing. And so I've been on a campaign here inside the security departments to get a lot more of those officers radar certified, and it's being done. It's hard to increase your traffic enforcement if you don't have people certified to do it. And so that's been on the increase. That will be helpful in that regard. In aligning with that, there's going to be finally, they've been on order for a long time, but they're the electronic speed limit radar signs. We've had 2 more come in. I'm going to be placing one here shortly. One's going to be put on Plantation. I think it's an important road to have one of those. They do slow people down. They remind people the speed limits and let them know how fast they're going. The other one I think is going to be going down there around South Sea Pines with all the construction and all the new things that are going on down there. I think it's important. Those things are changeable. I can move them from location to location, which I'm going to do. I've been in contact with property owners that would like them sometimes in their areas for a while, and we're going to do a little bit of rotation with that in the future to help out some of the areas that don't quite get the attention. So hopefully some of you have seen the newly equipped and newly redesigned security vehicles that represent Sea Pines. So far, my officers are reporting to me very positive, real positive responses to those. They're much more visible, and that's what we need. So that's going well. And as vehicles get replaced, that will be the new design as they're replaced as they come in. So it'll take a few years, but that'll be the entire fleet of vehicles. And one thing that's some of y'all have mentioned to me, reached out to me personally, and I do appreciate feedback. Is I'm trying to get some more uniformity, especially at the gates with what they wear. People come into Sea Pines, that's the first thing they see. And I'm working on getting uniforms that are more in line. When Victoria showed you more of the Sea Pines CSA stuff, you're gonna see more of that on uniforms, especially at the gates. So when people come in, they see a much more uniform, a little more professional look. And that's something I've been working on and we'll be implementing here shortly. That's all I have. Again, I appreciate you tolerating my voice this morning. If there's any other comments or questions, I'd be glad to take them.
Question, Joe, if I may, a couple of questions. First of all, on the slide about traffic, where you had the pass holder lanes and the various things, you have the gate by the Ocean Gate. Do they sell passes there?
Yes, they do.
And do you have any sense of what the percentage of their traffic is sold versus going through?
I don't for this presentation. I don't have it. I can get it. I'd be glad to get it to you. We can, I
Just
just
in
have
terms,
to do I can do a breakdown of that. I don't have it with me though for today.
because they're if they're selling a pass, that stops traffic entirely, and unlike theoretically at the Greenwood Gate.
Correct.
Second thing is, last time you mentioned two statistics that were interesting. One is the number of runners, and two is the number of turnarounds. Have either, with the new signage, have turnarounds been reduced at all?
I haven't had a chance because the new signage hadn't been up very long. But I will be able to, as we get a little more time to evaluate that data over, a longer period of time, I'll be able to report on that.
Okay.
They're pretty consistent. It's no more than about 2% of all the traffic.
I must be behind the 2% almost every time I come back.
They look for you, Larry.
Well,
what about gate runners?
now what about gate runners?
Yeah, is that reduced at all, or are we still having the same kind of problems there?
We generally have the same kind of problem. In fact, I got one the other day. I was leaving the office. They put one out, and I actually got to play police officer and stop one the other day myself. But most of them are just, some of them are trying to be slick. Some of them are, some of them don't know. Some of them thought the officer waved them through. But in general, we still have them. But hopefully with some of the signage, and as we get a little better up there at the gates and continue, again, I keep harping on this, but the consistency in employees, it's going to get better as we keep them longer and longer, and they get better at their job.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Tom, you had a question?
Yeah, sorry. Along that line, I think where Larry was, good morning. Can we put together a percentage of pass sales at the gate by type as opposed to pass sales, I guess, at the office? I guess my question is, are most of our pass sales at the gate the daily passes? Is that the highest percentage?
Yes. Yes, by far.
Vic can help me with that.
Okay.
Yes.
To the other end of that.
Yeah, maybe we've already done that, but that would be, I guess, more for the gate work we're doing to look at that.
Yeah, we have. I do have that, and I didn't bring that for this presentation, but yeah, I got the. We have all that breakdown if you need it.
All right, wonderful. That's appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure.
Well, thank you, Joe. We'll
You're
go on to
welcome.
the next one.
All righty.
Gates and Signage Task Force, Cliff.
Okay, yeah, I think really just kind of carrying over from that discussion as Joe and Larry had pointed out and Tom commented on, we've put up some temporary signage along Greenwood, and we've been trying different colors and backgrounds and designs to see what stands out and is the most effective. So you'll see some of that up, and I think we're just monitoring, accepting feedback, and as we indicated here, we'll start to dive into whether or not we've seen a significant change in the amount of turnarounds due to approaching the gate without a pass. That was the biggest one. So just continuing to monitor that and formalize those signs to make them look more permanent when we find they work. As far as the gate itself, we just continue to engage with the market. As you know, we have a very multifunctional, multifaceted gate operation, and so we just haven't been able to really put our finger on a solution or a group of solutions yet from a technology standpoint, but we just continue to do that. So as we make some adjustments with our task team, I think to bring on some more expertise and and continue to hit that market and identify, how we can develop a solution that's going to work for us, or a group of solutions to review and select. So that's we're kind of in the middle of that one, and it's ongoing. Just for effort to keep moving here, I'll go ahead and tackle the traffic piece as well for Tom. And we've been working closely this third and fourth quarter with the town on what they're calling their major thoroughfares corridor plan. They've identified Sea Pine Circle as a piece of that plan. They engaged Kimley Horn, and so Jonathan Guy with Kimley Horn has been working with them and meeting with us on design options. And really the next step for them was to take those ideas to town council for support in a workshop. They did that on October 22nd. And they, I guess, had a big agenda. They really didn't get into the details of the circle design. Council seemed more interested in talking about immediate, more temporary solutions that might give us more data and drive the long-term solutions. So, can't say I'm, too opposed to tackling short-term solutions. That isn't all bad. So they did encourage staff to continue to work on the long-term solutions. So I think, now that the election season is over, it's probably time for us to re-engage with them on that and go. But it was encouraging to see that council was finding the objective worthy of their pressure on staff to move forward with something to find some solutions soon from a short term. And those could include using the adaptive traffic signal system that they've just put in. So just as an example, but so that's really our updates there. And again, now that we're over this election, we'll be getting back engaged with the town.
Any questions, comments? Yeah. Thank you, Cliff. We're going now to financial. Leanne, you have the financial statements for the year end September 30.
Yes, I thank you. I have a presentation that Stephanie's going to pull up and share with the board. Thank you we got 5 topics to cover in the finance area, a lot of meat for actions to be taken. I just wanted to say thank you for tolerating my voice and cough. I did not get this from Joe Count. I got it somewhere else in a airport, but I'm a little under the weather. So Stephanie, can you move to the next slide? We have 5 items, as you can see on the list. We're going to cover the financial statements for September, budget amendments for 2024, a big discussion on the critical infrastructure collection and spending recap, and then 2025 residential property owner assessment and the operating and capital budgets. I just wanted to remind folks, and Stephanie mentioned it previously, that all of this information post the board approval, financial statements are posted, and the other financial reports are also posted as well. It's important because there's been some misunderstanding in social media that our materials are not made available, and please take a look at the website and look at what Stephanie mentioned. So Stephanie, if you move to the next slide, let's start with a review of the financial statements. Included in the board package was the full set of financial statements, and I should amend the title. It's for the 9 months ended September 30th. We have strong collections on the residential property assessments, the commercial and resort assessments, except for the rental registration fees, which are a little behind. The board's talking about what actions may be taken regarding to those delinquent account holders. We have been accumulating cash and investments due to our expected fourth quarter spending of approximately $6 million on major repairs and replacements. And that does include the budget amendments we'll talk about in a little bit. The year-to-date actual to budget summary was presented in the materials. And you can see that the operating revenues are a little behind the budget. And we have discussed the change in the daily gate passes, the composition, rental registration, and basically they both offset each other. Total operating expenditures to date are about 10 million versus $11 million budget. And we have been talking about the favorable variances on insurance costs to budget and a few unfilled positions. Next slide, please. Additionally, on the income statement, we talk about the major repairs and replacements being about 4.2 million, plus the 3.7 million of budget amendments we're going to get to. For the year, we're expecting over $10 million of MR&R being spent, and we'll go through more of that in a few minutes. So I am happy to answer any questions on the 9 months ended financial statements.
Anyone have any questions at this stage? Hearing none, please continue.
I'm going to look for a motion, and I'll make it to accept the CPINE's CSA financial statements year to date, September 30th, 2024, by the Board of Directors as recommended by the Finance Committee as presented.
Second.
Okay, you got a couple of seconds. All in favor, signify by saying aye, since I can't see you.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, the same sign? Passes unanimous, then.
Next slide, please. This is Lee and Sam tandem a little bit. This is we're presenting two budget amendments, one for South Sea Pines Drive and one for the Lighthouse Lane area. Basically, we've gone through this in detail. The Finance Committee has recommended approval. Sam, do you want to make any comments on these? I think we've had a lot of discussion.
We've talked extensively about them. This is for us, this is the end of Sea Pines Drive. Well, we've reached the final piece component. As y'all are aware, originally this was going to be 3, maybe 4 phases. It's turned into 5 because we've had to take breaks because of the level of work and the capacity to get the work done because of the challenge we've run into in getting work into the grounds along Sea Pines Drive. So we're in phase 5 now with what we're doing at the last piece. And so as all that is accumulated, we find ourselves in a deficit position to finish that work. And that includes some of the stuff we talked about earlier that's under the ground, but it also includes the things that are above the ground from the functionality and aesthetics that Russell mentioned with the islands, the pavers, and the landscaping. We need a budget adjustment amendment of 1.8 million to finalize and finish this project and close this out. This will get us through the end of this in March of next year. And we will be done with Sea Pines Drive. So again, phase 5. As Leanne mentioned, we've talked about this with the Finance Committee, approved it. We've been through it with the board at a previous workshop. We've been through it with the exec committee, and now we bring it to the full board for approval and ratification. Happy to answer any questions.
Great. I'm going to make the motion. I'm sorry, Dave.
No, okay, go ahead and make the motion. That's what I'm waiting for.
I'm going to make the motion that the Board of Directors, as recommended by the Finance Committee, approves the amendment to the Sea Pines CSA budget 2024 to include 1.8 million as presented for South Sea Pines Drive project from Boehner Code to Land's End.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say the same. Any abstain, say the same. Okay, unanimous pass.
Okay, in the Lighthouse Lane area, this is the beginning of the project for the 2024 budget. And we are presenting to you the fact that for the pieces going through 2025, there is an expected $6.5 million cost. We anticipate needing an additional 1.9 million. Again, you heard from Russell that this project will go through 2027. So these are only the first 2 years of the pieces for 6.5 million. I will be looking for a motion for the Sea Pines Community Service Associate as recommended by the Finance Committee to approve the amendment to the budget 2024 to include 1.8 million as presented for Lighthouse Lane area project.
Is there a motion?
So
Gary moved it. Is there a second?
Ray Walker seconded.
Second, Ray. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Unanimous pass.
Thank y'all. We appreciate this. Every dollar is going back in the ground in the community. It is very expensive, but it's being done well and being done right. And this is part of that. So thank y'all.
Okay, next slide, please. Sam, I'm going to have you start with the summary comments, and then I will kick in with walking through the presentation.
Sure, happy to do that. So as the board and the community remembers, in 2020, we had a referendum to raise dollars to do all these critical infrastructure projects. And we went through and we put a list of projects together with high level estimates based on the best information we had in that environment on what we thought the costs would be. We also created a sort of a separate pool of money to help us manage those costs, things we found inside the ground that needed to be done, as well as any drainage associated with the projects that we just didn't see coming at us. So we took this to the community adopted the budget, passed the critical referendum infrastructure budget for us, a program of $35 million. That was our 10-year estimate. Plus, if you remember, we discussed with the community the fact that we had been averaging $1.6 million a year in the previous 5 years for infrastructure. So the goal for us was not to take away from what we've been doing, but it was also to supplement the additional 35 million needed to be added to the 1.6 or the 16 million over the course of the next 10 years. So really what we presented to the community was the concept, the idea of a referendum that would raise 35 million additional dollars added to the anticipated 16 million for the 10-year scope of work is $51 million. And again, we made these estimates based on what we knew at the time and where construction costs were at the time. Now we find ourselves 4 years down the road. The work is progressing. It's moving at a very quick pace, as we just adopted, showed you in the last financial statement that you just adopted. We're going to be doing $10 million worth of work this year. So we are spending these dollars and we're seeing the results. They're getting the work done in the ground. But the projects are much more expensive than we anticipated right out of the gate. So Leanne, I'll have more on that as you want to work through with the second piece of this in terms of where we're headed with this.
Great. Thank you, Sam. So there's going to be 2 slides in front of you. The first one is an accounting of the blue represents the referendum amounts that were presented to the homeowners back in 2020. The numbers on the right-hand side represent the critical infrastructure revenue collected through 2024 and anticipated collections in 2025. This is a really important part for folks to look at this snapshot, because as we estimated back in 2020, there would be roughly $3.6 million collected. We've had the benefit of CPI increases since 2022. And we've also had the benefit of increased percentages of revenues or increased revenues against which a percentage is applied for the resort and the commercial entities. So we've actually collected in those 4 years, or anticipate to collect more than half of what or almost half of what we expected over the 10-year period. So this is a snapshot of the collections and the revenues. So this is where the money is coming in. It's being segregated and accounted for using accounting practices that basically track what the money is supposed to be used for. We also have a piece of operating revenue that, as Sam mentioned, was basically being used to fund other infrastructure projects, and we've held accounting for that, so that in total for infrastructure, there's been $25.3 million worth of funding available. Stephanie, if you could move to the next slide. So this is a detailed spreadsheet. I know it's kind of hard to read. It is available in the materials, so you'll be able to look at it in more detail. But what I wanted to do was focus on the fact that from the referendum material, the amounts in blue in the middle column represent those exact projects and details that were provided in the referendum. What you'll understand or learn from our presentation is that there were projects listed to the best of our ability at the time, with estimates put in place using the data available at the time. And there was also a big placeholder called drainage projects. And what the board anticipated, based upon information that we had, was that once we got into and dug underneath the roadways, there probably would be more complex issues identified and would have to be remediated. And that, in fact, was the case. And what we've gone through from a perspective of project accounting is making sure that we are tracking the costs associated with each of the different projects based upon their funding source, whether it be the critical infrastructure or funded through operations. So what does this all tell us? Well, I think one thing is, what the heck is drainage? And Sam and others and Russell have gone into and shown you all the pictures of what happens when we dig up the road and we find, collapsed infrastructure. We see where salt water has been just pounding these areas for years. And basically, we've gone into and understood that there's more to fixing the infrastructure once we get under the roads. The other area that we've learned is that when we focused on Sea Pines Drive, both north and south, there were 5 phases of work on South Sea Pines Drive and probably 2 or 3 on North Sea Pines Drive. And the total cost to spent on just Sea Pines Drive, both north and south, were over $10 million. About 7.6 was funded by the infrastructure fund. It really, when you look at that thoroughfare and the learnings that came from those particular projects and phases, it's really important that it is informing our work that's being done at Lighthouse Lane, which is obviously the next big project, and it's being divided into 4 phases through 2027. That particular project is more complicated, more costly than anyone would have thought, and in fact didn't have its own line item because we knew it was largely a drainage issue. And if you look at the summary on this page, there's about $6.5 million through 2025, but we know the project is going to run through 2027.
Okay.
Focusing on a couple more observations, if you look at the projects that have dollars expended, there's about a third of them that we've been able to focus on, plus the Lighthouse Lane, and about half the time frame and 40% of the funds in that 10-year forecast. And what we're learning is that, as I said before, things are more complicated, more complex, and the costs are higher than anyone would have anticipated. We do believe that we've tackled the most complicated projects first, and we're using the teachings from that and have allocated money in the 2025 budget to focus on the fact we have more lead time now. We have additional teachings and learnings from the projects we've completed, and that we will go forward and get engineering estimates to better estimate the costs going forward. Our big focus on all of this is a huge endeavor, both from what's being done, the work that's being done, but also from the accounting perspective and the management reporting and the board reporting, and ultimately the reporting to the community. We want to make sure we have the right project accounting in place. We do have it in place. And the next phase of that is the management reporting from a capital planning perspective, putting in a 3-year capital plan and monitoring and managing changes to scope, changes to the focus within a project, so that we are providing and giving good governance as a board to management. We do expect to have quarterly updates provided regarding this spreadsheet to keep ourselves accountable. And I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'm sure Sam would be happy as well.
I would, and I'll add a couple other things if I can lay into this.
Yeah, happy. Yep.
This has been a great exercise for us as a staff. I appreciate all the hard work that Victoria and her team, as well as Russell, have put into helping Leanne pull this together. In addition to the 3-year capital plan, as we look towards the next year, our goal would be also to bring the board and the community back an estimate on where we think we'll be in 10 years. Because we told the community this was a 10-year plan. Are we going to have the time and the dollars to get through all the projects we wanted and we listed in the 10-year? Can't give you an answer to that. I will tell you it's going to be tough and tight, but we want to give the community that estimate. And if not, when will we be through with all the projects? Is it an 11-year plan now from a funding perspective, or a timing perspective, or a 12-year plan? And then, where do we go after that? Because one thing about the infrastructure dollars, if you think about it, Sea Pines Drive is the first phase of Sea Pines Drive is now 3.5, 4 years old. And, it won't be 6 or 7 years. We'll be looking at doing repaving of that area. So, we'll be thinking about those kind of things moving into 2025, but appreciate this, and we look forward to reporting back to the community regularly using this spreadsheet, this document. Good report.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to, I meant to mention thank you to Victoria and her team, and Sam and Russell and all the folks that have worked on getting to the spreadsheet. It has been many months in the making, and had several iterations and discussions with the board, and I'm really happy where we are, and we're launching into the next phases.
Anybody has any questions?
Dave?
Yep.
Yeah, Leanne, fabulous job in spreadsheet, and Sam, great summary. I just want to make sure I'm understanding that as we look at these numbers, tell me if my conclusions are accurate, that number one, the projects are a lot more complicated than we anticipated when we decided not to kick the can down the road anymore. We got 88% of the community to say, yes, we need to make these kind of investments. But the investments are bigger than we anticipated because the problems, unbeknownst to us at the time, are more complicated and more require more investment. Point number one. Point number two is that the costs, we only are limited to our CPI by covenant. So the construction costs, I don't know if I caught that. It seems like they are a lot bigger than what we anticipated them to be. Do you have a number on that? It seems like it's, double digits or at least or more. And the third, do you want to answer? Yeah, I'll stop there.
CPI for construction in this area has been 37% since we started this project.
And what would be our CPI that we've been allowed to add on to the assessment?
We've been averaging 3.5%.
Okay, so all right, so it's a 90% overrun on an inflationary basis. So, and then the third is this isn't enough. We have to start, I think as a board, we need to start considering how do we communicate and how do we educate and how do we develop the interaction with the community to understand that if we really want this community to be safe, functional, great aesthetic, that we're going to need to find ways to invest, because I think this isn't project creep, this isn't project scope, this is complexity and cost issues. So it sounds like we need a lot more revenue. Is that an accurate conclusion out of this, Sam?
I believe, Jim, when we pick up, the biggest project facing us is going to be the reconfiguration of the gate. And as we pick up that project and look to fund that project, yes, there will be a need for additional resources and revenues. And anything else we add to this is sort of outside the critical infrastructure piece. We could, if we got the time and ability, we can add it in year 12 or 13. But when we work into taking on that major gate project, we are going to need to find a new resource, look to the community to do that.
And it sounds like we might need to find additional resources just for inside the gate as well. Well, thank you. I didn't mean to, I just want to make sure I was processing this very thorough report. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? All right, well, that's a very good report.
Okay.
And we will...
Stephanie, if you could move on to the next slide. I'll keep moving quickly. Let's focus on 2025. By covenant, we are only allowed to increase the owner assessment by the CPI factor. We measure that September over September, and the percentage increase that it calculates to is 2.44%. We'll be applying that against the 2024 improved lot number, and it'll bring us to $2,005 for the improved lot and $1,197 for the unimproved lot. And as you can see on the next to those items, the portion that relates to the critical infrastructure. I am looking for a motion, or I will make the motion.
Yeah, you make the motion.
I will make the motion that the Board of Associates, Sea Pines Community Services Board of Directors, as recommended by the Finance Committee, approves an increase over the 2024 CSA assessment, bringing the 2025 residential property owners annual assessment on an approved lot from $1,957 to $2,005, of which $687 represents the critical infrastructure portion of the assessment, and the 2025 residential property owners annual assessment on an unimproved lot from $1,167 to $1,197, of which $412 represents a critical infrastructure portion of the assessment.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, the same? Any abstained, the same? Unanimously passed.
Next slide, please. Okay, last and very important topic, 2025 proposed operating and capital major repairs and replacement budget. This is a snapshot of the materials that you have in your package. This is the draft budget that has been prepared by management. It has gone through 2 workshops of the Finance Committee and a formal meeting of the Finance Committee last week, where we recommended to the Executive Committee approval of the operating budget. We had very detailed discussions, and Victoria worked with all the department heads throughout the organization to come up with a very detailed budget that then is brought forward to you in the spreadsheet. An important factor is that the Finance Committee looks not only at the 2024 budget and how did we perform budget to actual, but there is a projection presented by Victoria that takes a look especially at the gate entry and permit fees, because that volume drives a significant portion of our revenues, and basically looking at actual gate volume through September and then estimated for the balance of the year. And what we did see is there was about a 7% decline when you look at the 2024 budget versus the 2025 budget. You could go to the next slide, please, Stephanie. So the other piece that gate passes drives a significant amount of the changes. The other piece is focusing on the expenditures. And usually labor costs make up a significant portion of the expenses in an organization like this. We had a increase in our healthcare costs, net of the employee portion being passed on of 14.7%. And that was actually reduced after Victoria, or reduced to that amount after Victoria had additional conversations with the vendor. The expected increase in salaries being set aside is 3% and a merit pool of 3%. Next slide, please. I'll move you to the next slide as well. The major repairs and replacement expenditures of 6.1 million. Stephanie, if you could go to the next one, is detailed here between the portion expended through operations and the portion expended and funded through infrastructure. And these are all similar projects to what you saw, if you could have seen in that detailed spreadsheet, but this is just for the 2025 budget. And you'll see that we have engineering costs, Greenwood Drive engineering costs associated with, getting those estimates. We've got Lighthouse Lane reconstruction and then the beginning of Otter Road and Fawn Lane. So that totals about $6 million that will be spent in the 2025 operating year. That is down from the 10 million in 2024, but obviously, a lot of money being expended and a lot going on. Are there any questions on the budget?
It's been well put together and very time consuming and reviewed by the Finance Committee and you, Victoria, Sam. Anybody have any questions? Are you ready to make the motion?
Yes, I would like to move that Sea Pines Community Service Associates Board of Directors, as recommended by the Finance Committee, approves the CSA budget 2025 as presented.
Second. All right. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed the same time? Any abstain the same time? Passes unanimous.
One more slide, Stephanie, and then I will complete. I want to make the commitment to my fellow board members, with obviously the cooperation for management. We are very focused on the critical infrastructure spending and collections accounting and the management reporting. We're going to give quarterly updates. We're working, as Sam and I have talked about, this 3-year capital spending plan that's going to basically continue to project the amounts going forward so that we have a real good handle on a rolling basis, how we're going to fund the necessary items to be completed. And key to this is going to being used and refined engineering estimates so that we get real accurate estimates for future projects. So a lot of time I know spent on finance at this committee meeting, or at this board meeting, but really an important part of what we do in our governance role. So I appreciate your time and efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. A lot of work is going into presenting this and being able to have it for the community to see. You can see the actual dollars. You can see what we started out with, what we've spent, why, heard the explanation. So I think it's very important that if people are interested in this and comment on this, to read this and study and understand. Jim, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I can't, great report. I should know this detail, but I don't, but I think, David, we should have some kudos to our finance committee too. Leanne, can you tell me a little bit of composition? Because I mean, obviously the finance committee has done yeoman's work in review preparation, as has management with Victoria and Sam putting this plan together. But I think from an accountability perspective of how the finance committee functions and from a community relationship, I can't remember like how many other property owners are on finance. Could you just do a real quick overview of the finance committee for me?
Yeah, I don't have the list right in front of me, but we have, I think it's I want to say 17 or 18 members. And we have board members that sit in, and as well as 3 classes of 3 members each. So there's 9 members that basically get appointed non-board members. So when you kind of put that all together, there's quite a few interested board members, and the residential property owners that attend usually self-nominate through the committee application process. And then we'll go out and kind of target, you know, different folks, whether we have investment related people, bankers, accountants, lawyers, kind of a mishmash of folks, because we do provide oversight to a number of different operations, including the audit, the investment structure, et cetera.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important message for our community to hear, of the level of outside participation outside of the board membership, I should say. So this is not a closed loop. This is a very interactive, made up with a lot of experts. So when we hear comments about transparency or due diligence and that, we can underpin it by the kind of participation we get. So good.
And
Good job.
I will say our members are not shy. We have very robust dialogue, and I get messages off meeting with more feedback, and I appreciate it because it gives us, you know, food for thought.
I am happy to report that Ann Esposito came out of her shell during our finance committee meetings finally. So it was nice to hear from Ann on a regular basis.
We're so shy and withdrawn prior to that.
All right, it's anything else on this? Then we'll go to the next topic. We're moving into unfinished business. Well, I don't see anything listed there, but a lot is unfinished and pending, as I've told you earlier in my remarks. So I'll go to new business and the appointment of the chair of the nominating committee. And I have appointed Larry Mufshin as a past chair to serve as chair of the nominating committee, and ask approval of that resolution. Nobody?
So moved.
Larry, I was worried.
Thanks for the endorsement, gang.
Yeah.
We were thinking about you, Larry.
And to clarify, this is on the officers. This is for the officers.
That's exactly right. Any other questions? All right, then all in favor? I see you now. You can raise your hand. And any opposed, raise your hand. And any abstain, raise your hand. Okay, Larry, you after all of that, you are unanimously appointed.
Thank you.
And nobody else wants the job though, Larry. So it's another thankless job. All right, we have pending, as I mentioned earlier in my remarks, a couple of items. One is the social media policy. We've been through this and actually have gone back and forth and reworded this. There has been some kind of mention of this previously in public meetings on that, but primarily it states that there's certain people that will respond on social media for the if there's a comment that deemed necessary, and it's setting forth that we don't use our individual accounts or anything to speak on behalf of CSA. The whole general purpose without reading, and all of you have read it, and unless you have some changes, you've tentatively agreed to these. It's to set a chain of command, and that way everybody has the individual right to participate in social media, but participating on behalf of the organization or any capacity which indicates speaking for CSA is not allowed unless it goes through proper channels. We can't have mixed messages for the organization. We have so many board members that everybody can have a little slight twist on something. And if that's ever the case, we need to come together and make a decision. And because it has to be the board position, and it has to be a unified presentation of what it is. So we've been working on this for a while. We want to make sure it's correct, and that's how we treated going forward. Does anybody have any questions or comments? I think a hand.
I think, David, this comes out of the communications task force, and I think it underscores what we were talking about earlier, that the work that Stephanie's doing, the emails, all of that is CSA is the source of truth. And this kind of a policy gives the discipline to the board to make sure that CSA is the source of truth versus individuals commenting who happen to be board members that could confuse the community. So I would so move acceptance of this if you're ready to do that.
Okay, well, we got a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Now discussion. Any more discussion? If not, then all in favor, raise your hands. Any opposed, like sign? Any abstained, like sign? Thank you. That was good comments on that. The other thing that we had been working on and we've talked about for some time, it's been in the community. We've actually gotten some community comments about it, property comments, or a new set of rules and regulations for commercial contractors on residential properties. This has been discussed a number of times. Again, I think it was presented at a board meeting earlier. I think we have actually comments from some property owners and things who've seen it and so forth. So at this stage, does anybody have any questions, more discussion they want on it before we move to take action? So seeing none, does someone want to make a motion to approve these rules and regulations? Okay, Tom, and then who seconds?
Second.
Okay, second there. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed, likewise? Any abstain, likewise? Okay, passage unanimous. This is an instance of something that was not within CSA's domain originally, but it's one of the things that affects how our property and what happens on our property and the way that it looks, the way that people, the hours they spend, the time they spend, and so forth. And and so we, as you know, we created our code of standards, and this goes and will be attached to our code of standards for enforcement. Thank you. The last item that I have, and we've been working on, is the amendment of the bylaws. And you've seen these over a period of time. We have discussed them, primarily going through quickly for what I can do for those in the audience. We have provided that anytime we're talking about signing any document, that may be done in a manner authorized by the covenants of the board by electronic means, so that we're trying to incorporate electronic means in any type of signing. In addition to that, we have moved to change the officers of the corporation, and that we are authorizing and creating various corporate officers and positions such as chief operating officer, chief financial officer, executive assistant, and any other positions which the board decides to establish from time to time. And that provision is there. Then we go to the chair officers of the corporation. The chair of the board was previously the chief executive officer. The chair of the board is now just the chair, and it does all things that are determined to be done by the chair, and to lead the executive committee in determining salary, compensation, and benefits for the president. And then we move to further provision that the president is now the chief executive officer and performs all duties and incidents in the office to do that, with additional language going down. It's all, you have an amended copy as well as the highlighting amendments, as well as a clean copy. Or you should have had it before. Standing committees, we've had, we are codifying what we've been using as standard committees. We have only the executive committee, the finance committee, and the nominating committee as standing committees. All other committees will be task force for specific tasks, specific items. Those can include, task force can include property owners from time to time as we have a project. We have been operating under task force with our traffic issues, our circle, our signage, and another issue, I forget which it is right now, but that's the mantra we're going to go through so that we're not just having committees with no particular task to do. So with that, since it's been worked on, I would move the adoption of the amendment of the bylaw. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? If no discussion, I'll move to a vote. All in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed, likewise? Any abstained, likewise? Okay, and with that, the meeting can be adjourned. We may have some questions and answers. Stephanie, do we have any more than the one question?
No, sir, that is the only one we have received in the inbox right now.
Okay, well, the question is just, when will the pool at South Beach be reopened? And Bob, I think you're the best one if you're still online to answer that question if you were there. Bob may be gone.
Oh, he's there. He's on mute.
I'm here. Yeah, I don't know why. Every time I try to unmute, my phone doesn't cooperate.
Okay.
We're continuing working on the pool. Yes, we anticipate early spring opening. I'm still at the mercy of the contractors, but we're in there working on it and hope to have a very nice, improved facility ready to go.
Thank you. Hope that answers the question. Well, I'm sorry that we don't have a lot of questions and but we're releasing an overwhelming amount of information today. I urge the property owners to please look at it, study it. You want information, we're giving it to you. And as I said earlier in the meeting, there will be additional communication pieces coming out on other things that will happen in the community, relating to the community. We're working on it. And I thank you very much for your attention. And now everybody can go and have a nice lunch, a relaxing lunch. And to all of you, if I don't see you, happy Thanksgiving. Okay.